So welcome everybody, and thank you very much for taking the time to join our technology showcase tonight on Movement's GPS ear tags. The webinar is hosted by Gulf Savannah NRM, and it's under the eBeef Smart Farming Partnerships project. The Smart Farming Partnerships project is all about trialling up and coming technology with our northern producers. John Colless is one of our producers that has joined a producer group within the project. But I would really like to welcome Daniel Rieder. He's a director for Movement, and John Colless is of Wetherby Station and has been using the Movement ear tags for a year now. Dan, I will ask you to share your screen and you can tell us a little bit about yourself and we can get started.
So you can see that, you can see my screen.
Yes, thank you, Dan.
Yes, okay. Firstly, I want to thank everyone who could be here tonight. Thank you very much. And also to Kira and the Gulf Savannah team for organizing the webinar. And of course, John Colless from Wetherby Station for being here. And he'll be telling you about his experience with our technology. So I'll start. A quick introduction about myself. I'm Daniel Rieder. I'm one of the directors of Movement here in Australia and for New Zealand. I've been with the company for over 2 years so far, and my background is in cattle farming in Paraguay, in South America. We run a Brahman and Braford breed in a property that I would say is similar to the Emerald area. And what you see on the screen is the agenda. The agenda I'll run you through tonight. I want to start telling you about what is needed to start tracking your cattle with Movement, how to tag our GPS ear tags, how to use our Movement app, the latest releases and features, and I'll run you through a real case scenarios of one of our customers. And I'll talk a bit about our water sensors. And then as Kira said, if you have any questions along the way or at the end, happy to answer them. Okay, so first topic is how does our system work and what is needed to start tracking your cattle? So we have three main components. So it's the GPS ear tag, it's the LoRa antenna or gateway as we call it, and the Movement app. Our current tags are configured to send a new location message to the antenna every 2 hours. Our tags do not need mobile coverage or any sort of internet to do their job, but our antennas do need internet. But we can do this in many ways, and I'll talk about connectivity in the coming slides. The antenna receives the messages from the tags in the field and sends the information to the cloud through the internet and straight to our own Movement app. Okay, the first component is our GPS ear tag itself. It has an industry standard prong design, meaning you can buy the applicator and mail buttons in your local ag store. We do prefer C-Tag, the C-Tag brand, because the neck or the whole of our tag has been built around the C-Tag mail button, but Allflex and other brands will work as well. It is a solar powered GPS ear tag. As you can see, there are 4 solar panels on the tag. It weighs under 30 grams and it has a life expectancy of 5 years, and it is reusable. So if an animal is being sold or an animal died or any other reason, you can cut off the mail button as you would do with a normal management tag and tag the next animal. And size-wise, it is smaller than a normal management tag ID. Okay, the second component we need is the LoRa antenna. As I mentioned, the antenna collects information from the tags that are in the field through radio frequency, and then display the information on our app. Each antenna covers about 10 kilometers in radius, which is about 25,000, 30,000 hectares is what each antenna can cover. We have two different antenna setups. So the homestead antenna, which is the picture on the left-hand side. With the homestead antenna, we expect the customer to provide electricity. So it's usually we place this antenna on the homestead. The kit includes the antenna, as seen on the picture, and a router that we connect to the homestead. We can connect the router to the homestead internet or Wi-Fi, NBN, or to a telco like Telstra, for example. The picture in the center, that's a field antenna. In this setup we use when the antenna needs to be installed in the field, when there is no electricity available to power it. In this case, we provide solar panels and an electronic box where all the electronics are kept away from the weather. Like there's a battery, there are the charge controllers, routers, and cables. And the box is there, is the picture on the right-hand side, and it comes with a key as well to lock all the components away. Okay, so the first thing we do to know how much it would cost to set up our system is to make a radio map to determine how many antennas the customer needs to cover his whole property. So we work with the customer with his lot and plan numbers to map out the boundaries and the paddocks as well. In this case, it's just a demonstration, but I'll run you through exactly how we do this process. So the radio maps, these maps show the reach of an antenna at a certain location. So we don't need to physically go to a property and assess it. The radio map takes into consideration the elevation, but also obstacles. So like trees, for example. So it takes into consideration the elevation and trees. So the radio map helps us decide where to place the antennas and check how many would be required to cover the whole property and at what height they need to be placed. So we have customers that want to cover just some critical area of their properties, and some want their whole property covered. Some of them want their property covered and also a little bit of their neighbors, especially when they have some neighbors they don't fully trust, so they can see their animals even though they are not on their property. In this example here that you can see on the screen, this is a 120,000 acre property, and I will run you through the whole radio mapping process. So in the image you can see, you can see that an antenna has been placed at the homestead, and the circle in green is the area that will be covered by the antenna. So any ear tag in the green area will be picked up by the antenna and sent to our app. So as you can see there's a pin there on the homestead, and there's where we would place the first antenna. At the house, we can use the customer's electricity, and we can connect the antenna to the internet in different ways. For example, with a telco like Telstra is what we usually would use, or if they have Wi-Fi, we can use that as well. Last case scenario, we can also use NBN. Now, one antenna does not cover the whole property, so we need to add a second one in the field. So we choose the right location in the field, and let's assume there is no electricity there, so we can set up one of our field antennas that includes the solar kit, as I mentioned in the slides before. Let's say in this location we have some 3G or 4G available, so we can connect the antenna to the internet that way. We include a router with a SIM card to connect to the internet. So the antenna would come with a router included, and it would come with, if you have Telstra available, it would come with a Telstra SIM card. If you have Optus, with an Optus SIM card inserted in it. With this, we extend the coverage now and covered in the image there, you can see we covered about, let's say 70% of the property. But this customer, let's assume he wants to cover the whole property. Now, in many cases, we have properties that have no 3G, 4G at all available in the field. So let's assume that the last antenna, as you can see there, remote antenna, has no access to 3G or 4G at all. Most properties would have at least an NBN connection at the homestead, so we can use that internet access for the antenna in the field using point-to-point connection. In this scenario, because the last antenna we need to place in the field does not have access to 3G, what we can do is place a directional antenna at the house and point it to the last antenna we placed in the field. So we house antenna, we place a directional antenna, and we point it towards remote antenna, where we place another directional antenna. That antenna receives the internet, so we can place another of our Moovement LoRa antennas in that location. So what I want to get at is, if you don't have any sort of internet or access to 3G, 4G in the field, we can still work with you to shoot internet across your property to get internet access in those remote areas. We can shoot with point-to-point connection. We can shoot internet over very long distances, so even over 50 or 70 kilometers away, we can shoot internet across. Well, the last component of the three components I mentioned, our app, our antennas. The last one is our Moovement app, and which works with iOS and Android. So any phone you have available, it would work, but it also works on tablets or iPads. So there is no need to integrate with another company to access the data from our tags and sensors that you're using in the field. And for those who are looking, I want to show you a very short video that shows the whole process, how to onboard a tag onto our app itself, and then how to tag an animal with our tags. It's very short, but I'll run you through it. As you can see, our customer has this app open. He taps list view and scan QR code. All our tags have a QR code that is individual to the tag itself. If you scan that QR code, it adds the details on our app. You enter the visual ID, which would be the management tag ID or your NLIS number. You add it to the paddock that you're going to assign it to, the year born, and you can free text any comment into that last box below. You click done. Hello?
We still have you, Dan.
Okay. I don't know what happened there, but I lost you guys for a minute. Let me go back to that. So did you guys see the video?
Yes, we did.
Okay, just to the last part. So you scan the QR code, you enter the animal details, and you tag the animal. The only difference with our tag and any other tag is that ours go on the back of the ear. And that's because when animals are grazing, our tag looks towards the sun, and that will charge the ear tag. Also important to notice that if you don't have internet, if you don't have 3G, 4G or internet at your yards, our app has a capability to do an offline onboarding. So if you're at your yards with no internet, you can scan, let's say you have 100 animals coming through the yards, you scan them all. They are not uploaded yet, but once you get to your house or when you have access to the internet, it would upload them all. So there is no problem if you don't have access to the internet. Next year, I would like to show you how our app works, but I want to show you a real case scenario. So if you give me 1 second, I'll share my phone and I'll show the app itself. Okay. I'm sharing my phone now, and this is a customer we have. This property is called Thorpedale. You can see his boundaries are lined out there, all his paddocks as well, and his animals. So once you open the app, this is the first view you will see. So you see your property, you see your animals, and any other sensors you have. So water sensors or rain gauges or anything else you have, as well as our antennas. It's very easy on the eye because everything in all the dots in pink are cows in this example, or yeah, they are cows, and in blue you see the bulls. So it's very easy to identify where your bulls are in comparison to your cows. You can click on any of them to see their details and when they have last been seen. So if you click on this bull, for example, this bull is called Ben. He has been assigned to Bourne's Dam Paddock, born in 2020, 007DD. That's our internal tag ID. As I mentioned before, every tag we saw has an.
We can't see that information coming up. I think it froze.
Can you see my screen now?
Yep, we can see the screen. It was moving, but when you clicked on an animal, we couldn't see the info come up.
Okay. So
Now
again, here's Ben Bull, is assigned to Bourne's Dam Paddock, born in 2020. If you click on the details again, this is one of our features that it shows the last 5 locations where the animal has been. So that's almost half a day of movements of this animal. And specifically for bulls, you might be interested in this feature because it will show you what the bull has been doing for almost 12 hours. So if it's a lazy bull, would you stand in a corner somewhere or under some trees? Or what you ideally want to see is a bull that is moving amongst the cows and doing what he's supposed to do. So in this image here, you can see that 12 hours he has been down there. Then he moved closer to the house. And so you can see the path he took or if he's actually working. So if you click on any cow in the field, you can see its details as well. And as I mentioned before, the cows are in pink to make it easy on the eye. The second feature we have on our app, so if you are moving animals from one paddock to the other, what you do is you click on list view, and here on list view, you will have all your paddocks already preloaded for you. So all the paddocks will be in this view here. And if you want to move, let's say you're opening a gate and you want to move animals from Bourne's Dam Paddock to, let's say, okay, let's mark all the animals at Bourne Paddock and move animals. And we can select in this drop-down menu any other paddock we want and just move them over. if we are opening gates or doing rotational grazing, that's a good feature to have. Antenna status. So if you click on the third icon at the bottom, you can see your gateways available. The gateways are the antennas, and as you see on this property, this customer in particular has two. He has one homestead antenna, as I specified before, and he has one field antenna with our solar panels. That covers his whole property, and with that he can check all his cows, his bulls, and his water sensors as well. If you have an antenna in red, means the antenna is offline. And because the antennas are connected to the internet, our IT guys here in Brisbane can monitor them without being on your property. So if you have an offline antenna, we would notice. If we don't notice, you give us a call, and we can remotely, like more than 90% of the time, we can fix it from Brisbane. So we can help you out from Brisbane. There's no need to travel to your property to assess the situation. Another very nice feature is out of paddock alerts. So as you see, all the animals have normal colors, but there are two here, number 107 and number 110, that are highlighted in red. That means they are not in the paddock that they have been assigned to. This customer in particular does not have notifications activated, but once an animal goes outside of the paddocks that have been assigned, you get a notification in here, and the animal shows up in red, like you can see there. Very important, for example, if you have a bull kept away in a paddock that you don't want to mix with with some cows, would be very nice to know if that bull, for example, broke through a fence to get to them. Also, if you have an animal that escaped your property, very good feature to have an out of farm alert to let you know an animal has escaped your property and is now on your neighbors. That's a perfect time to take a screenshot of exactly what animal has gone out, at what time, and on which property. You can share that with your neighbor just to make sure he's aware that you have missed an animal and that animal is in his property at the moment. Another great feature is that can really help you save time and money is the inventory management. So if you go on the app view, you can see that there are different paddocks. Let's say I choose fixed type paddock, click on it, and it will give you the inventory. And this is a real-time inventory. So it gives you back real information from tags that are reporting in the field at the moment. So this customer in particular assigned 23 animals to that paddock, and now 22 assigned animals are actually in the paddock. So why there is one missing? Because as I showed you before, there is one animal, which is the 107, has escaped that paddock and is now outside of his assigned paddock. If you want to check it, that's the animal, that's a cow. It's number 107, born in 2021. And you can see its details. So it's a red Brangus JD2. The same would happen if the animal is outside of the property itself. And the last thing I want to show you here is the water sensors. This customer not only has tags, but he also has our water sensors. He has 3 of them. So that trough reported 3 minutes ago, this one 7 minutes ago, and this one, the tank at the house, 6 minutes ago, because our water sensors send a new water level every 10 minutes. If you click on one of these sensors and you click on them again, you will get the historical data. So Potbelly, you can see the fluctuation of the water for today, so 24 hours, but you can also change it to 7 days, not much of a fluctuation, 30 days, slowly going down. Also very important, and because it sends a new message every 10 minutes, it's a very short time period, so it's perfect if you have a leak on the tank, for example. In 10 minutes, hopefully you didn't lose enough water. You have enough time to go out there and fix it up. Okay, I'll stop sharing the phone. I'll share. See, you can see my presentation again.
Yep, all good.
Okay. I'll just move through these. I've already showed. Okay, our next, we also have, so we just released a desktop version that has more capabilities and features available. So we had our app available on iOS and Android, but now you get the desktop version with more capabilities and features at no extra price. And the main feature of our desktop app that we get asked by customers is the grazing patterns. And I will show you a quick example of a grazing pattern we have made with our desktop app. So using the data from our tags, our customers can now create their own heat maps or grazing patterns, as we call it. So the customers will be able to select a date range and the animals they are interested in and create a heat map. So let's say they want to choose all their heifers or steers or only their cows or their whole herd and do a radio map. And let's say they want to do it for the last week or a month or 3 months. They can select it here. As you can see on the right-hand side, you can select the data range. With grazing patterns, there are a few things we can do, can help us with. So for example, to know if the size of your paddocks are correct or they need to be adjusted, or let's say you need to add more paddocks for more efficient feeding. So let's say your animals are only feeding in one corner or in one side of the paddock, or in this image, for example, you can see how those animals are grazing the paddock. If it was me, I would divide that paddock in four different ones, so they are not overgrazing in those corners and putting too much pressure on the pastures and also on the soil. So especially if you're doing rotational grazing, it will help you to know if the animals are grazing very close to the edges. We have seen this before, very close to the fence, meaning they're putting their head through the fence, trying to eat, try to graze from the paddock adjacent because they run out of pastures in the paddocks where they are at the moment. And this will help you avoid overgrazing, soil degradation, and also erosion. Now I also want to show you the water sensors we have available. We have pressure and ultrasonic sensors to monitor water levels. In troughs, you can monitor tanks, dams, turkey nests, any scenario. We have two different sensors. One of them is ultrasonic, one of them is pressure. We can use them in most scenarios. You can use them both, but there are some like turkey nests that you can use the ultrasonic, but we have them both. As I mentioned before, these sensors send a new water level every 10 minutes. They send the message to the same antenna than our GPS ear tags, and it shows up on the same app that I showed you before. You can also set minimum and maximum boundaries to alert us if water levels go, for example, above 90%, so a tank is about to overflow, or if it goes below 20% and there's a problem, or you need to turn on the pump, or there's a leak. So if it goes, for example, below 20% or below 10%, it can send you an alert to your app telling you something is wrong, you need to go out and check it. This is another big money and time saver, because with our water sensor, you don't need to do water runs anymore. And because the messages come very frequently, so as I mentioned, this every 10 minutes, it gives you enough time. So if there is a leak, it gives you enough time to go to check it out before you waste too much water. or before your animals run out of water, which is even worse. This is what I showed you before on our app. I'm just going to run you through again. So if you select a water point and if you click on it again, it will tell you when it has last been seen. So in this one in particular, 5 minutes ago, it will tell you the water level, in this case 96%, and you can select historical data. So in this case, last 7 days, to see the fluctuations that you had. Very short about our pricing. So our GPS ear tags themselves are $49 to purchase them, and they have an ongoing cost of $9 per tag per year. Although I mentioned before, our tags are built to last for 5 years, we only charge you for 3 years. If the tag lasts longer than 3 years, you keep it, you do not need to pay further for it. As I mentioned, they are reusable as well. So if you're selling an animal, you just cut off the prong, the male button, and you tag the next animal. I mentioned before that we have a few antennas, although the antenna itself is the same. The setup is a little bit different. So the homestead antenna, if we connect the antenna to your electricity, that's $1,250 one-off. There's no ongoing cost for our antennas. If you need a field antenna, meaning the same antenna that you use at the house, but we add the solar kit. It comes with the solar panels, with the electronic box, the fuses, the battery, and all the rest. That's $3,250 one-off, no ongoing cost. I also mentioned there is a scenario where you might not have electricity and you don't have 3G or any sort of internet either. That's a case-by-case scenario. So we need to assess. So the antenna will be $3,250, but to do point-to-point, we assess case-by-case, and we would tell you how much that price would be. We have 2 water sensors, as I mentioned, the ultrasonic sensor, which we place at the top of the water, and it tells you the difference from top water and the bottom. And by that, it tells you how much water there is. It's a one-off of $1,350, and it's $70 per year. Our ongoing cost is very cheap because we use LoRa technology. We don't use satellite or connecting our water sensors to 3G or 4G. Also, another nice feature is that our water sensors do not need solar panels. They have deep batteries inside of them. They last about, in our experience, 3 to 4 years. When the sensor stops recording or stops sending information, it only has 4 screws at the top, as you can see there. Open it up, get a couple more deep batteries from Bunnings, chuck them in. It goes for another 3-4 years. And we have the pressure sensors. The pressure sensors are the same price than the ultrasonic one. The only difference is that these measure the water level by pressure. So let's say you have a tank, you put the little box at the top of the tank, that's what connects to our antenna. And the metal sensor that's at the end of a 10-meter cable, you drop it to the bottom of the tank, inside the tank, and by pressure it tells you how much water there is. We are getting, or the good thing about using LoRa is that you can add other devices onto your network. So once you have, or we have customers that only need 1 antenna at the homestead. We have customers that have 10 antennas in total. So big properties that need a lot of coverage. Once you have your network established, you can add our tags, you can add water sensors, we have rain gauges, we have silo monitors, and we're adding a range of more sensors that are coming up. For example, to turn on and turn off pumps, we are adding asset trackers. So if you wanna track your vehicles, your cars, trucks, or motorcycles, that will all be possible through the same antenna, and they will be monitored through the same app. All our customers get unlimited login details. So let's say you are the manager or you're the owner of the property, you get full access to the app. If you have a manager that lives on the property and you want to give him full access to edit and make any changes on the app, we can give him another a different login detail. If you have more workers on the property but you don't want them, so you want them to give him only viewer rights, so they can see what's going on in the property, but they cannot make any changes. We can do that as well, and we can give you unlimited login details. Well, thank you very much for listening. That's about it for my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I don't know if it's now the time or after John. But thanks for listening, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you very much, Dan. That was really good. And we might save the questions till after. That way, if people want to hang around, they can stop and listen to the questions. If they don't want to hang around, they can go. Next, we will have John Colless, who, as I said before, has been working with the eBeef team and has generously shared his experiences with the Moovement tags and has been using them for approximately a year now. Can everybody see that screen?
Yes, Kira, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kira.
No worries. Well, John, take it away. John's from Wetherby Station. He has a Brangus stud at Mount Molloy, and I'm sure he will introduce himself. Thank you, John.
Thanks very much, Kira, and thanks to the eBeef team. Can you hear me okay, Kira? All good?
Yep. Beautiful.
Okay. So just a bit of background. We've got a Brangus stud here at Mount Molloy, Wetherby Station. Thanks, Kira. Kira's going to do the driving and flicking over the visuals. Next, please, Kira. Okay, Wetherby was set up as weather boards. It's a funny old building, you'll see in a second. It was settled in 1876 by a guy who selected 640 acres. It's gone a bit since then. The homestead you'll see in a second, built in 1878, so it's quite old. Brahman Foundation stud, number 2, set up in 1940 by Morris to Turner with Wairuna. It was stud number 1. They must have tossed a coin, those two guys, one of the Atkinson boys and Morris to Turner. Kathy and I purchased the property in 2006 and established a Brangus stud in 2016 on Telpara Hills Genetics. Thank you. Homestead, there she is, about to re-roof it. Don't re-roof an old galvanised roof, fellas. It cost $1, but that's just a shot of the homestead in the centre of things. Thank you. Aerial shot of the homestead. The yards are in there under great big old rain trees. He planted them back in 1940, Morris, and so they're very shady old yards. As you'll see in a second, a lot of labour gone in, split rails and 6-foot high fence for the Brahmins in those days. You don't need that for modern day cattle. Thanks, Kira. Okay, getting onto movement tags. Why do we go movement? Well, we lost a $20,000 bull. We mustered a paddock. Where's the bull? Got the cattle in the yards, went back after we processed the cattle, and he was about 2 days gone, paddled. I reckon it was a Taipan. He'd had all his shots. So it wasn't Wasn't anything from a disease, but possibly the only thing I could think of was taipan. So why do we go? It's security. It's like I carry insurance on vehicles and the property in the homestead. Security sleep at night. And the tracking functions, which we'll talk about in a second. We can check on the status of tag stud cows and heifers at calving time. We can certainly check on bulls, and the bulls, they've all got a tag. Go with the first to get tagged. We can locate a mob prior to mustering. So instead of going out, where the hell are they? You can actually pull it up on the app on your phone and check where the cattle are. And I only learned about 2 weeks ago, Dan, I'm sure still listening, you can actually ask Moovement to give you a muster function, and they'll, instead of them being recorded every couple of hours, or sometimes with cloud cover and the wet weather they're having, you might go out more than a couple of hours before you can actually locate them on your app. They can actually give you a muster function. So when you're doing a muster, particularly if you've got a chopper involved, you can get a quick bird's eye view of where the cattle are and send crews out to get them. Good, as Dan's covered again, AWOL. That's an old term for people in the home services, absent without leave. So when cattle are out of a paddock, particularly bulls, you're straight onto them. And you actually get a little notification. Dan touched on it, but there's a little notification comes up on the screen if you actually allocate a paddock to cattle or allocate the cattle to the paddock named. You can actually pick up when they're out of the paddock by the machine notifying you. We started the ear tags and water tanks monitoring back in August 2020. So we've been into a bit longer now, Kira. We've been into it coming up 18 months. We'll talk about some of the things that happen in the meantime in the next slide. And I checked out other options and went Moovement. There we go. So thank you. Next slide, just a shot of some Angus cattle to make Bud Hicks and have a bit of a drizzle. I see you on screen there, Bud, and mate Nilo. So there's some cows, calves, and in the back there's a ubiquitous cattle egret. Thank you. Okay, changes in operation, certainly time saving, pardon me, and it does increase the efficiency of running the property and cattle management. You can check key stock locations and water levels from anywhere on your phone anytime. And I've checked down in Brisbane. I haven't been interstate since COVID, since we put the technology in, but I've got a granddaughter down in doing vet science at Charles Sturt at Wagga, and she's got the app on her phone, and Poppy, and she rouses on me occasionally about water levels and things. So that's the feature of it. You can check anywhere on the phone anytime. In fact, I woke up this morning at dawn and knowing we're going to be out all day today, I had a check on water levels and cattle. You can monitor stock grazing pressure and mob location, which leads to improved pasture management. And I wasn't aware of that feature you mentioned there, Dan, and just piggybacking now, I'm learning myself, which is good. That heat map of grazing pressure, when you're looking at soil cover or grass cover and overgrazing and undergrazing, I think that's a real goer, but particularly for people on larger places where they're looking to put in new waters. Where do you put them? Well, you put them where the cattle aren't grazing to pull them out to where they aren't grazing. So, monitoring and managing soil and land condition, and you can plan to move stock on a seasonal or rotational basis based on feed. And in our case, sometimes we need to look at pasture, and then currently we've had a couple of good doozy floods this year, and opening gates and getting cattle out of frontage country onto where there's hills to get them up onto. Thanks, Kira. There's a technology improved management. I believe that it does, and it's probably improved our bottom line. How do you prove that? Well, time saving straight up, reduce staff time to check on stock location. I still go out. Nothing beats the farmer's footprints on a property, but I still check. But I can with stud bulls and cattle calving, you can actually, instead of driving around for 3 or 4 hours, you can have a spot check. And if things aren't right, if that bull hasn't moved, like the one that died on me, at least I would have found him. Hopefully before he had it carked it, taipan, I don't know. And on water tank status, you can check, and that function of high and low water levels when you're pumping. When the level's high, you can turn the pump off. We still don't rely on remote turning on and off bores, but that's a goer. Adaptability, a big word there for me. Family members, as I mentioned, son, daughter, and one of my granddaughters is hooked up on it. Able to make well-timed decisions. Back to that insurance, peace of mind, and reduce the worry as to status and location of valuable stud stock as well as commercial cattle. We haven't used it so much for the Judas pull trick, but that's where you don't need to go and hit up 100 cows with tags. If you do a bull or two, they're not too far away from where the ladies are. And if you're tracking bulls, you can almost be sure that they're not too far away from their herd, particularly with single sire mobs. And I mentioned there about moving this time of the year, floods and maybe fire. Haven't had to use that one yet, but in the event of fire and planning, you could. I don't think it wouldn't be a bad idea to be thinking about, in the event of fire, where's the cattle? Well, it's the first thing you do. Thank you, Skira. These are some of the people from Toowoomba looking at. I'm actually showing the app on my phone and giving them a bit of an earful there. And a young guy there actually looking at a tag. Thanks, that's okay, that's only people. Setting up and getting started. Select the key bulls or females that you want to tag. Don't need to tag all of them, just the key ones, particularly when you can switch them from cow to cow. We've got probably about 20 first calf heifers going to be calving May, June. They'll all have a tag in them. I'll probably pinch a few tags out. I've got some more tags in a box here, now, another 10 tags to tag cattle, but I'll be tagging our first calf heifers, they're studs, so they need to be watched. And if they're not moving around and they're in the one spot, I can get out there and check them out. What you need to do is develop a farm plan with all your features anyway for good management, with gates, waters and fences. And a shout out to Carl at Gulf Savannah. When we were getting ourselves set up, we had our farm plan done way back when it was what it used to be called. It used to be called Gulf Savannah. What was it called in the old days? I forget. I'm under the new name now, but we actually had a farm plan, a hard copy, but we actually then went on and put it onto the app. And you need your paddock boundaries, and you can do those quite smartly by the technology that is out there. I believe you can use other techniques apart from relying on mappers at your resource management group, but we're very happy to be able to use that. You'll need to name your paddocks, so you can call them 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got ours all named, our paddocks, so that's probably not a bad idea either. Check any connectivity issues and to get that all sorted out. We've got pretty good NBN here. And just on that point, if I forget to mention it later, there's a technician was up here a week or so ago. Frank was up from Brizzy, and our little stick aerial was on our NBN antenna, and he actually put another 2 meters of water pipe on it and stuck it up a lot higher than I'd stuck it up on back in August 2020. So our connectivity, Dan, has actually improved out of sight just by getting. We had good connectivity for mobile phone reception, but to get a better signal, we've actually stuck the stick up higher, and it is improving, no doubt. Chat with the movement team and plan and seek backup as needed. And I actually just not pinching a comment that Dan made about putting it on vehicles. Before I put it in any animal ear tags, I wanted to prove it to myself, so I put it on the air filter on my side by side, and it's still on there, it still works, and it's one good way of tracking. And with other folk having the app on their phone, like on a bigger property, where the manager might have some of the vehicles with that function on it, you can actually track and see where staff over. Hopefully, haven't tipped one of those machines over, run out of fuel or got bogged, but we've trialled it and it works, and has worked since day one. Thank you. Okay, installation, order the antenna tags and cable, get it all set up the base station and check it. You must charge the tags in the sun for several days prior to fitting. Early on, we we didn't. We might have given them half a day or a day's charging, but I think a good trick is, mind you, it's on the back of the ear, and when the animal's grazing, the tag's facing the sun. But sometimes, like right now, I'd definitely have them fully charged, and we put tags in about 2 weeks ago, and they were charged for a couple of weeks before they went in, and they're working beautifully. But that's it. You must charge. It's a good idea to charge them up, give them a good belt with the natural sun. We record the tag ID and match that to the cattle ID and the nils, all on the actual app. There's a little box down below where you can actually put, in our case, stud cattle. So instead of trying to remember what some of these numbers are, you know who the sire is, but you can actually go back, pick up the sire, the dam, who the cow's been running with, when she went in. So you can carry a fair bit of, you don't need too much, but probably 4 or 5 lines in there. So when you're showing people around stud cattle, they want to know different things, so you can tell who the sire of the sire was, and certainly other data on there. Upload it there. So there's the tags on. Okay, thanks. Keep going. That's all good there. Upload the tag data onto the phone, and there's a couple of Brangus cows there with their tags on their ears. That photo was taken by Kira, and there are our yards there. I don't know how she managed to get 2 cows looking away from her. I think it's because I was standing over talking to blokes with a bull over there, but she captured that. Thanks, Steve. That's how you load them. That's on the right ear with the nils tag. Okay, overall experience with Movement. The company itself is a good company, good staff to deal with. Excellent prompt tech backup. I've been playing with, working with ag input supply companies for quite a few years now, and they're right up there with any of the companies. And most companies these days, that's what they've got to do. But these guys have been good, and a lot of it's been done by remote. Instead of having a rep come out, the techos can do it. They can actually go in real time on their backup down there and actually tell you some of the stuff you don't know about your cattle. We did have a problem, and you got to fess up to that. We did have a problem with the initial batch of tags. There was a bit of a probably a mechanical problem with the tags. We had a bit of water ingression got in. Mind you, we put them in August, and by that first wet, there was some problems with water ingression. A couple of the tags cracked, and that was identified and fixed up 100%. They replaced the tags, and those tags are up and working. But there was a bit of a gremlin up front, and I was losing a bit of heart about it. Didn't get cranky, and all good. The tags have since been, the performance has been improved since day one. Instead of just location, that's when I first put them in, they actually give you the immediate past locations. So you can see where the cattle have been moving, individual cattle in the mob. And back to a bit of a joke about that, not lighthearted, but my granddaughter, there's 2 vets arriving tomorrow morning in Cairns, flying up from New South Wales with my son, and she was up staying with us probably about December, whenever this new thing came in, and I just happened to tap the app twice and on the animal, and up came the immediate where that particular thing that I tapped, and it happened to be the Honda side beside. She was up here staying as a guest and a loving member of the family, and she'd been out checking cattle by herself, 21-year-old lass, and I had to fess up and say Poppy wasn't tracking you, but actually I'd see where she'd been around the place, which was probably a good thing had she come to grief. And the other thing is, if the animal is out of the nominated paddock or off the property, that's well worth knowing. So if you put animals into a paddock, nominate that paddock, certainly the property itself, but individual paddocks, it will notify you and to give you a notification up on the screen. Thanks, Kira. The water monitor, we riparian fenced Rifle Creek out with some land care money through Gulf Savannah back in 2008 when Tim Hoogworth was just the outfit, and we riparian fenced the whole of Rifle Creek where the cattle did have access to. So we now pull from a bore, and the cattle don't have access to the creek. It's all regenerated, and it's all gone back in the rainforest. And that means we had our header tank, our top tank, which feeds all of the reticulated polypipe into the troughs, as well as the domestic homestead. And to get up and check it, I used to zip up and down in a quad bike or whatever, and to check the water level in the top tank. And I put another tank beside it just in case the top tank did run dry when we had a coachload of American tourists to Stanford University. You can't run out of water with toilets and cooking. So peace of mind now, it'll actually tell me whether the tank's full 100% or whether it's at 75%, and whether I need to pump on a regular basis. It comes up within about 2 minutes. I put 7 and 30 days plus the 7 to 30 days prior history, so you can actually see which cattle are drinking from which set of troughs. So that's a good feature. And with the water monitor, really, it's connection. I think I might have said a bit more about the water monitor. Thanks, Kira. The next one, oh no, but that does give you peace of mind too. You can check at a heartbeat. We're going away, hopefully on the e-beef trip in late March. I've got a mate babysitting the place, an old retired gentleman, and I can check the water in the tank, and he knows where to turn the switch on if we do run out of water. So it's remote. There's a shot of myself and Kira and the team from the AgTech Hub, which you'll hear a bit more about, folk. That's a new innovation coming through. Thank you to the Gulf Savannah e-beef team and the Moovement team. Big call out to John, Emily, Kira, and Mandy, and all the staff there. Thanks to the Moovement team, Dan, Frank, and Peter. Job well done with some great outcomes. Thank you very much. Over and out. Kira.
Thank you. Yep, just getting through all the buttons to click. Thank you very much, John. Great presentation. Just had a comment from John McLaughlin. Great presentation. That will wrap up our webinar for tonight. But if you do have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat box and I can ask them, or Dan or John, I think you might be able to see them as well. So if you would like to log off, you're more than welcome to. Thank you very much for coming. But if you want to hang around for questions, you're more than welcome to. Dan, we have the first question is, if the tags continue working past 5 years, which requires no annual cost, can you keep using it?
Yes. So we charge only for 3 years. Is it on the tags or is it the water sensor? Sorry.
On the tags, yep.
The tags we only charge for 3 years. So if they work over the 5 years, 6 years, we don't charge you anymore. We only charge you for the first 3 years.
But they'll still continue to work and come up on the app.
Yes. Everything keeps working. You still have our support. The app works. Everything normal, but we only charge you for 3 years.
Can I have a go at Bud, please, Kira?
Yes.
I've got Bud's question there. What am I doing with all my spare time? Good question, Bud. Probably trying to manage better and playing with our stud cattle and getting into leather work and woodwork in my retirement. I know Bud from way back. Hi, Bud.
Nilo, how well does the signal go over hills or down into valleys? Okay, so the answer to this is, what we do is we do the radio map. We do a free radio map for you. You share your lot and plan numbers. We map your property boundaries for you, and we tell you where to place the antenna. And they would usually go at your house or at the homestead or at a high location. But we tell you where to put them so you can maximize the coverage out of each of the antennas. So we will tell you if you need to put them at the top of a hill, and we would place it at the right location so it can see down into valleys and into all the places where you are worried about that your cattle might get lost or where you want to monitor them. So we do that. We do all that for free.
So the next question is, do you have pump switches to operate pumps from tank levels?
Short question, no, but our antennas do allow back and forth messaging. So our antennas can send messages to devices. So that means we will come up with sensors that can turn on and turn off stuff. But at the moment, we don't have it yet, but we're working on it.
Thank you. If you sell a property and relocate, is the antenna component suitable to relocate to?
Yes, all our antennas are movable. Our antenna itself, some people get scared when we say antenna, but the antenna is not bigger than a 600 ml bottle of water or Coke. So it's a very small cylinder. If you need to move it to a different property, that's no problem. We can map the new property and do a new analysis, and that's for free again.
Nilo
There's a question
again.
there, Kira.
Sorry, John.
Yeah, the question there, somebody wanted, was that Dan's name? Could maybe you could shoot out a Dan's details and mine if you wish to. I can't see the lady's name in there. There's no initial coming up. 7:30, the 7:37 question that came in at 7:37. Can we get
so
your name?
Relocating.
Yeah. No, but they might want Dan's name to chase him up on some reason. See the question, can you get your name, please?
That was me.
You can't.
That's
you.
Because
Okay.
everybody's coming up as
Transition
me. I just
animals
wanted to
in
get everyone's
Okay.
name. So
Sorry.
if you can state your name before your question, it would make it a bit easier.
Nilo asked, if transferring to new animals, is it easy to clear the existing data? So if you saw that that short video, Nilo, it's the same thing if you want to tag a new animal. So if you're selling an animal, for example, you cut off the male prong as you would do with a normal management ID tag, and you scan the tag again with our app, and it would actually prompt a message saying, what's going on here? Are you retagging? You just click yes, and off you go. You tag the new animal. So our app takes care of it, of the transfer from one animal to the other. Is there a cost for the app? Well, the cost of the app is included in the ongoing cost of the tag. So as I mentioned before, the tag is $49, and we have a $9 per tag per year ongoing cost. That includes the app, all the analysis we do for you, so the radio mapping, the mapping of your property. It also includes the Telstra coverage, for example. So all our antennas come with a router. If we connect it to Telstra, we also cover the Telstra or Optus bill. That's not charged to the customers separately. We take care of that cost. I think that's all for now. I'm happy to stick here for longer. If there's any more questions.
Yeah, is there anyone else with any more questions? Or even if you want to put your hand up and I can unmute you, you want to ask.
Karen Campbell asked, can the system integrate several properties? So for example, you may have a dry block and finishing block many. Yes, we have customers in this situation. You can add as many properties as you want, and you have your own drop-down menu. So you will log in to our app with your own details, and you can choose among your farms. If you have a dry block, if you have the finishing block, you select the one, and it will automatically go to that property, and you will be able to see them. So it's not logging out and in, it's all under your single login details, and it will move you back and forth through your properties. If you have several properties as well, it will all be seen on the same screen. So no need to go back and forth. What I mean, if you zoom out, you will see your 2 properties or 3 properties in Australia. And you will be able to see the properties wherever you are. So if you're in Australia, if you're in China, South America, anywhere you are, as long as you have internet, you'll be able to see all your properties and animals. Percentage of tag retention over 5 years. I can't give you those. We don't have those details, but we have documents signed by Australian registered vets, because we ran two different trials in 2 properties in Queensland, and we tried retention rate and irritation rates, and we have those documents. So in one property, over we only tested it for 6 months, but in one property we had no loss, so we didn't lose a single tag. And in the other one, we lost 2 tags, but that property had pig fences. So the animals wrapped the ear through the pig mesh, and they ripped out the tag. But I can send you if anyone wants the reports, happy to share.
So you must have had a little bit of static for Bood there, Dan, but we can certainly send the recording to Bood to have a listen properly. John, your experience with tag losses. Have you had any?
I think one's fallen out or can't break on, but broke off at the stem, and it was in that first batch. There are one prong tag. There only one male prong. The male prong was okay, but between the bit that goes into the male prong and the body of the ear tag, one broke off there. And apart from several in that very first batch with water ingression, no hassle with tag losses. Signal has been a bit of a whoopser, and that's why I made the point about making sure you sun charge the tags. I just put them out on the table in the sun and give them 3 or 4 days to charge up. And I'd say that's a good point to make. And make sure you've got your antenna in a good area. That could be a good thing to think about, Dan, as to when Frank was here, the technician, we were looking at density of tree cover, and I think might have been Neil asked about hills and hollows and so on. Topography doesn't play a hell of a big problem because the cattle move around, but I certainly wouldn't be putting it on the lee side of Mount Everest. I'd be putting it somewhere up high to scan the whole property, and that seems to be something you can do. You get a good topographical map if you need to go to 10K. But that's tag losses, not a concern.
Just about what John said a second ago about water ingressions in the tag, and yes, it has been a learning curve. We definitely had issues at the beginning, but those have all been ironed out. So we went back to manufacturing. We took back all John's tags, and we replaced all the tags for free, and that problem has been solved. Just to clarify, if you have a tag, so there is just a question here, you'd still be able to locate the tag losses, I assume, to reconnect. So if you have the antenna, so the antenna needs to be in a proper location. So that's the analysis we do when we take into consideration the topography of the terrain. If there is a black spot on your property, meaning the antenna cannot see the animal, then you will lose that message. So let's say the animal is behind a hill and the animal, it's in a black spot and the antenna cannot see it. That message will be lost. But animals, thankfully, they move unless the animal is dead. It will move out of that location. The antenna will pick it up again and it will reconnect with the antenna. And if a tag comes off, so if an animal wraps ear against a tree or against each other and a tag comes off, because it's a GPS ear tag, if it falls on the ground, you will still be able to go and pick it up and re-tag the animal. That's the beauty of having that's a GPS ear tag. Even if it falls facing down and it's not charging anymore because the solar panels are looking towards the floor, it will not disappear. It will show you the last location seen, even though the tag even if it runs out of battery. And Nilo, 3 weeks is a very long time. If it's cloudy, our tags will still charge. Now, if it's completely like very, very overcast, like no sun at all, in a week they will go to sleep. But it needs to be really, 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 really cloudy. At the moment, our minimum order is 50 tags, but case by case scenario. So we do make exceptions. So still contact us.
Tags in Milla is near a great big mountain, and it rains every day. I was at Melander today, and over nearly on the back the way to Ravenshoe, and it was steaming over at Atherton. I got to tell you, so Milla. My experience has been we ran into we haven't had a good sunny day here now for about crikey, it'd be a good week. And 520 millimeters for us in January is a fair bit, but and we've got a bull called Black Label, and his tag doesn't record, and you think, where is he? What's he up to? You see where he last was, and he has been moving around, but we might have gone a day without getting a signal, and then all of a sudden he'll pop up, and then you'll see where he's been, and I don't know. I think that's something that we probably need to monitor and look at. But we don't. I don't have a problem with that here in this. But Milla might be a problem. I don't know.
So I just put in the message chat. If there's anyone else with one more question, we could answer that. Otherwise, I think we may have gone enough over time. Do the tags only track as far as the data gateway reaches, or will they pick up anywhere in Australia? Thank you, from Jeff.
Yeah. The tags will report as long as they are covered by an antenna. However, we have over 100 customers now, some of them very big, and what we are seeing is that we now are getting neighbors getting our system. So if any antenna picks up your tags, they will still report back to your app. If your neighbor picks up your tags, it will show up on your app. So you cannot see each other's tags. Obviously, you won't be able to see your neighbor's animals, but you can benefit each other because any antenna in Australia will pick up your animals, basically. So the more customers we have, the bigger the network, and the more everyone can benefit.
Excellent, thank you, Jeff. We might wrap up for the night. Once again, thanks everybody for taking the time to come on and have a listen. I do have all the emails, so I'll send out John and Dan's contact details, if you don't mind, Dan and John, if you want to have a chat to them. And also a recording of this webinar, and we may share it on our social media platforms as well. So thank you very much, and good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dan.